Hey guys, Dr. Prometheus here, and we are back, this time with another episode of our Bills franchise, going over what we did in the live stream. So this is a cut down version of that, looking at the Pro Bowl. We're just saying, as we had Mitch Trubisky out here, win the first one for the NFC. As we go through, we didn't have anyone besides Jordan Poyer, who's playing strong safety. We now flipped him over to free safety, because I believe that Hyde playing up in the box is a lot more effective for us in the long run, as his tackling is better and his pursuit. And I think him playing up in the box is really going to help our run defense. We do have a couple intriguing players that we're going to take a look at if they hit the market. Kendall Fuller, 89 overall, second quarterback pick in the AFC. He is typically on the free agent market the first year, and he's one of our biggest targets going into the offseason. See here, free safety Jordan Poyer, or we did turn him over to a free safety, because that's where Hyde was, so he is flipped over there. And here's another weird thing. Mitchell Trubisky is the MVP. Let's go into some firings as we see Pat Shurmur from the Giants and Sean McVay both fired. They both have a top 10 pick. But on to the Super Bowl. It is Baltimore over Dallas in overtime. Lamar Jackson, 2 touchdowns, only took 1 sack, threw 340 yards. Zeke, big game. Buck 36, 1 touchdown. Dixon there had 1, but this was more of a rushing affair than anything. Lamar Jackson's got a rushing touchdown. Mike Weber, the 2 catching touchdowns. Seth Roberts and Marquise Brown for Baltimore. Defense, there was 1 sack, but we didn't see anyone. It must have been someone who did retire. And we look at some of the retirees going into next season. Jason Witten, Benjamin Watson in our division. Tramon Williams, Larry Fitzgerald, who we were looking at to possibly come in and play a slot position. Thomas Davis, Cameron Wake. AP retires. Aqib Talib and Andrew Whitworth. So those are big losses for the Rams. Joe Staley. And we have Frank Gore retire, who didn't have a lot of touches this season. And another big one, Andy Reid retires. So we're going to make some cuts here. We do end up cutting Tyree Jackson. We free up $1.6 million. We will also look at signing a couple players. We do sign Javon Wims and Stefan Denmark, 2 cheap players going into the offseason who didn't get a whole lot of playing, but they are pretty good in the route running for Javon Wims. And Stefan Denmark has that star dev. So continue with the cuts. We look at Spencer Long. We don't have a big penalty with this, only $900K. But we do cut him and get $3.35 million back. We do cut a couple other people later on, but we are in to free agency to see the offers, and Drew Brees is here on the market. So is Kendall Fuller. So let's at first make a bid to Kendall Fuller. Actually, we did one to Brees. I did have a little mess up, but let's look at the Kendall Fuller issue, and we'll fall on the Brees issue later. So Kendall Fuller, we ultimately end up giving him around a 4-year, $55.5 million deal after all this is done. So the cap hit is about 10 on the year. We do put a bid to Breon Body Calhoun. Why we do this is because we intend to trade possibly Poyer. I want to keep Hyde on the roster, but Poyer might be a trade piece for that number 1 overall pick, as well as one of our receivers that go to the Giants. Giants have a big hole at safety, and Poyer has been playing well, so matching up with Peppers could be a big boom for them. We were looking at some not linebacker, but some halfback help, and that and Austin Eckler with some speed out there, but we'll see if he accepts that deal. I wanted to really upgrade the line, but other than Jack Conklin, who had a huge bid from the Redskins, I wasn't really seeing any way we can upgrade that, so we'll have to look in the draft. At linebacker, Miles Jack, that big bid by, it looked like the Colts, but again, we might, if we get the number 1 overall pick, we have our guy that's going to be moving over to middle linebacker. Make one more attempt here, and that is Kendrick Bourne. Doesn't have any bids. Kendrick Bourne, good route runner, so we'll see what he does. And here we go with the trade. So, John Brown counts about 9.75 to the cap. We will take about a $4 million cap hit from this trade. However, this gets us the most money that we can dip in over to Breeze. Ultimately, I do mess up because I do trade it and then forget to add more space to Breeze, but hey, it happens. Poyer here, gonna trade him, so John Brown and Poyer, and we're gonna add a 4th round pick onto this to get the overall first overall pick in the 2020 draft. I did look at the 6th and eventually the 5th. I was thinking it was going to be a 6th round next year, but remember, I forgot it is next year, so if I would have given it a 6th for this year, they would have accepted it, but we have to go a little higher to a 4th next year. Good value for the number 1 overall pick, especially with them getting a Jordan Poyer, who is a superstar dev. He did upgrade his development because of his Pro Bowl bid. But let's go with the issue with Breeze. So I made the trade, and I forgot to put the remaining money on Breeze. So I consulted with chat, and well, it was pretty much deemed that we're going to roll this back. Because it was an oversight, I didn't do it, and I'm kind of figured that with the $29.9 million, because our contract to Breeze was only 24, and we only gave a couple million to Brian Body Calhoun, so there was $3 or $4 million we didn't allocate after that trade, and I totally forgot to actually allocate that to both Eckler and Breeze. So Breeze we pump up from that $3 million about 2. Eckler we give him about $1 million more, and then the remaining we attempt to get a kicker. We do put a bid on one that we will see later after this round. But yeah, here is the first round negotiations. Breeze here, I gave him a 28.2. The previously I had it at 26, and I wanted to allocate that, so we thought it was alright to roll back and put that money on there, and we did upgrade that. Brian Body Calhoun, a 101 contract rating, 95 from the Lions. We'll see now going into the second week and actually not messing up the allocation of extra money. We do get Breeze. We kind of figured we weren't going to get Brian Body Calhoun. I liked our contract there, and that was one thing that we wanted to stipulate in this, is if I rolled it back, the extra money would go to Drew Brees, and it ultimately did. We could not change any other contract, so if we got a look at the draw on the other ones, it is what it is. And so we do get Breeze because I did mess up that, and so that's a good one. Fuller we're going to get anyway. We didn't change that contract. And now on to scouting. Looking at some early scouting on this before we look at the final free agency portions. And Brody Holloway is a great example of a late to mid-round pick that looks like he's going to be one that's ahead. And we need help on the offensive line. Maybe not at center. We can pump that center out to guard eventually when some guys get older, but George Woodbury as well, projected to be a 4th, but his talent's a 1st round. He is going to jump up in people's boards as well. But we go into stage 3, and Eckler refuses that contract. I didn't see a lot of running backs I wanted to really see, so we took a look at our roster. We said, hey, Levi Wallace is going to be a guy we want in the slot. We got Kendall Fuller. I like White there. I did put a bid to Eric Murray at free safety. We ultimately didn't get him. We're looking at who can transition to safety. Some of the other guys with at least a high 80 speed. And what we settle upon is actually a slot corner in Eli Apple. Has a pretty good man, pretty good speed. Zone coverage is kind of lacking, but his press, acceleration, agility. We make a move here, and we'll go ahead and make him a bid. We end up getting Butker, the kicker, Eli Apple, and Kendrick Bourne. So remember, we got one bid out for Eric Murray. We didn't see anything, so on safety, we might have to make a trade in the preseason. We ultimately do. You'll see that in the next episode, in the preseason episode, as I get about 2 games deep and still make the trade. So, the media is saying, Todd McShay is saying Weeks is the #1 overall. But we have other plans. We have other plans to solidify this linebacking core into the future. We look at one more time, going through the top 100 to see who hasn't gone anywhere. Henry, Howard, I have no desire to give Hunt that kind of deal. Murray didn't sign, even though we gave him a 50-point deal. Understandable. Our signings here with Fuller, Breeze, Butker, Apple, and Bourne. Some decent free agency to go into next year, and let's add to our draft. But first, we need to see the top 100, where they go. Miles Jack to the Colts. That's a good one, teaming up with that good linebacking core out there in Indianapolis. They also pull in Ngakwe as well. So that's going to be a very good defense over in Indy. I think Luck is still their quarterback, because we did do this afterwards, or maybe we did change that. Ryan Shazier goes to the Pats, which is a big one. Aguilar Thuney to the Seahawks. Martinez seems to always go to the Browns. Eckler did pick the Tampa Bay Bucks. Clinton Dix also went. So the Bucks threw some money around. I thought about Whitehair, but at 28, he's not going to be a guy that upgrades all that much, and I like our line so far. So that's what we're going to go with. Verrett over with the Texans. Josh Gordon with the Seahawks. As we go down, Anthony Brown, Trevathan to the Rams, which is a good pick up there. Devondre Campbell to the Saints. That one's a pretty good one for them. But at the end of the day, we'll have to see who we go up against, because Des Bryant is back with, will sign with the Dolphins, which was probably the funniest one I've seen. And Giovanni Bernard is to the Bucks as well. So the Bucks made 2 half-pack moves. But here we go into the 2020 draft this year. It's in Las Vegas. We look at who's going to trade for that #1 pick. And well, the Texans don't want to give up their 3rd pick. So at this point, I just wanted to see what the trade was, just to see what the logic looked like, because I never had the #1 pick. But we are going to pick a player. The media thinks it's going to be Denaro Weeks. Denaro Weeks looks like a strong guy, but we got our eye on another prospect, Von Haskins. Middle linebacker, or actually a left outside linebacker coverage guy out of Louisville. We will transfer him over to a middle linebacker, and he is a top 3 in every category but the broad jump. This pick will be one they say we reached. He is a #4 true talent. We took him at 1. Hidden dev trait, but he's only 21. Starts out with a 76 overall. Does need some block shitting at that middle linebacker position to get around some of those incoming linemen into the 2nd level. Man coverage isn't great, but the zone coverage is good. So, with our 6th pick, we're looking at Shields and Bo. I like Shields' catching traffic more than Bo, so we're going to have to end up taking him. He is ranked number 10 in true talent. Another 21-year-old. Good speed. We'll see what the differences between him and Bo are. But I do like that his route running is pretty decent. His catching up in the high 70s and acceleration at 94. So one thing I thought was weird is going into the 2nd round, George Woodbury has fallen. He has fallen out of that early 1st round. And so we're going to take him. He is number 3 in true talent. Another guy at 21 years old. Good blocking. He's going to be our starting right tackle. Just some good stats there, and we got away with that. Going into the 3rd round, though, with the 69th pick that we got from the Rams, looks like we end up taking Brody Holloway, center out of Arizona. I mean, not very high strength, but this was a depth pick right here. A guy that we can groom behind Morse long term, and I was all right with this. Not a very high strength, but again, at center, really you want a lot of awareness out of that position. We did have the 7th overall pick, but we end up trading that at some point in the season. So we move down to our next pick in the 4th round, 122nd pick, and really everyone was off our board. I didn't know what to really pick here. A lot of guys were kind of pushed down. I thought about a kicker. We did get a kicker though in the free agency, and it didn't show up on the tab on the left side, so I was not looking at that, but that's going to be a later pick. We take Isaac Hollenbach. Number 2 up in dash and vertical is an improviser. 22 out of NC State. Not a very good pick. 61 overall. We reached a lot, but grooming a backup right now behind Josh Allen will be good for about 3 or 4 seasons. Next pick, 34th overall. In the 5th round, we go with Braxton Gross, left outside linebacker out of Youngstown State. And he is going to be a project coming in and trying to get him to be a good pass rusher. But, again, that's another depth that's going to be behind Shaq Lawson in the long term. With our 6th round pick, I had no idea where to go with this. By the time the 6th round pick goes, you're taking flyers. We already had 10 active, or 10 receivers in the roster. Typically I go receiver or a halfback. Well, we had 10 receivers in the roster and 5 halfbacks. So at this point, we're going to take a kicker because I forgot we already signed one. And then with the 7th round, I kind of violate that again. We will take 6 halfbacks into the preseason. We go with Morgan Ward out of New Mexico State. He's a project, but he is pretty fast. And Lyle Bass, receiver out of Idaho. And he is just a streak runner. At that good speed, but ultimately that acceleration is going to hold him down. So here's our draft class. Von Hoskins, number 1 overall, the top 17% of left side out linebackers. We put him at middle, and he stays in that top 15 to top 20 range. Demetrius Shield, 21 years old, out of Georgia. And that route running is great. Catching's great. He's going to be a force long term. George Woodbury, kind of sucks that he does have a normal dev. However, him starting out at 77 overall and starting. Well, that's going to give him a head start, and he's going to be in the mid 80s by the time of his final contract and resigning. Howard was not a... We did have that extra pick in the 3rd round. Somehow I didn't see it. Somehow we weren't able to pick. But we do take a free safety in Howard for that one. It was kind of weird. Supposed to be the Vikings pick, and then it kind of some weird thing with the trade back or trade up or whatever. So, looking at what other players took. So we're looking at the top 10. Slade looks like a good player. Denario Weeks looks like a pretty good player. 22 years old. Good speed off the side. That's going to be a good one to put with J.J. Watt. Casey Flanagan, who I thought about taking if he fell to 6, him or Archer. I kind of felt Archer, if he fell, would be better. And Archer would have been a good pick. But everyone falls, and well, they fall into place with their picks, and Shields is our pick, and I'm very happy with that. The Heisman Trophy winner, Michael Dawson, goes to the Dolphins, though, division rival. So we'll see him. And so let's kind of look at some other players. Demarius Bowe, better on speed, better acceleration, better catching, but lower catching traffic, and that route running is not as good. All of Shields' route running is up in the high 70s, besides short routes at 74. But that'll be at 75 because he's taking a morale hit because he's on the Bills. The morale hits kind of reset going into preseason. So I think we make the right pick there. We'll have to see in the long term who it is. Now, looking at the best overall picks in the draft, Peel went to the Falcons, is the best one, but then it's Woodbury, Mayburn, who went to the Jets, and then Hoskins. So we have 2 of the top 5 players in the league. Looking at our division rivals by overall in their picks, Dawson, the best one for the Dolphins. Taron McCain, though, a rookie at 69, but has some good speed and good acceleration out there. He could be a guy that could put some damage out there against opponents. Looking at the Jets, Bennett Mabin was their top pick at 77 overall, and he looks like a beast. I believe they let Wilkinson go, so that's going to be a replacement out at defensive tackle or end. Steve McCallagher, another receiver, trying to get that going, and I don't see it going for Darnold. Rest of draft picks down in the mid to low 50s. For the Patriots, well, not the greatest draft, but Terrence Still, besides the route running, looks like a pretty good target for whoever succeeds Tom Brady. I imagine Brady plays one more year after this, so we have a good Breeze-Brady matchup in 2 division games. So we thought about Terrell Norton at one point in the 2nd or 3rd round before he fell, and well, Norton is a really good off-ball linebacker. Could be a pretty good rusher as well. So looking at our schedule, we start with the Texans, Jets, 49ers in a bye week. Cardinals, Jets, Seahawks, Chiefs, Raiders. Our first game against the Patriots in week 10. Rams, then Patriots again. Dolphins, Bengals, Dolphins, Chargers, and finish the season against the Broncos. Big games though. Chiefs, the 2 against the Patriots, the 2 against the Jets, who played pretty good last year, before we had to sim this one because of some issues. So, I will see you guys in the preseason here. I'll play all 4 games, show you the trades, and, well, I will see you guys next time. Later.